Riverside responded from Riverside Paramedic Service. I'm assuming it was their first ambulance out then, correct? Is that all that still works? Yeah. They had me longboarded, C-spined, everything else before the ambulance got there. That ambulance, all that they did, well, the first responders loaded me up on their stretcher. And then I got in the ambulance, they started in an IV and gave me medications. Okay? There's no way I could have had that pain medication any quicker, because they still have to longboard you. They still have to do the basics. Like I said, I don't know how to get all these thoughts out, but I think people have to have an understanding of how an ambulance works and at least know the difference between EMT basics, EMT, AMTs, and paramedics. Now, the Riverside chief can correct me if I'm wrong. Their first ambulance out is a paramedic service, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So if my parents have a medical emergency in the village of Rochelle, they're gonna get Riverside paramedic service.
Yes.
If I fall over him and I need an ambulance, am I gonna get a paramedic service right now?
No guarantee.
You're saying it's
Only the
the
first
first
ambulance
ambulance is paramedic, after that it's AMT?
Correct. Last Friday, we had 2 calls within 15 minutes of each other. First call got a paramedic, the second call was a cardiac emergency. It's how we were dispatched. It ended up not being, thankfully. The ambulance that responded with 2 EMT basics. So correct.
I appreciate
Yeah.
you bringing that up.
I don't know if everybody understands that. You are not guaranteed a paramedic service in the village of Kronenwetter. I don't know if y'all looked this up that are against this, but we're not guaranteed a paramedic service. And we think right now that, oh, they're paramedic, quote unquote. You know, that's all that people see. Well, they're getting the better service.
But only if they call first.
Yes.
Okay.
And we need it to be there if. There's something called the golden hour. I don't know if you've heard of that. When you have a cardiac arrest, 1 hour from that time that you have that MI, you need to be in surgery. You need to be in the OR. If that AEMT service, is that what you're supposed to? Responds out to Peplin, they can get out there, they can transport that cardiac arrest right away. They can meet the paramedic intercept en route. There is nothing, if they would be a full-time paramedic service, there is nothing that you do for the patient with advanced skills, not right away. Yeah, you gotta get that IV going, you gotta get those drugs going. But in the meantime, you're doing CPR and transporting. If you wanna know what it's like to start an IV in the back of an ambulance, go for a ride with them sometime. I have a lot of experience with all of this, and it really seems like nobody wants to actually ask like the real everyday questions that they go through. I've experienced this politics for 24 years since I first got into the fire service in the early aughts. We want gas stations and grocery stores and Red Lobsters. But we don't want to upgrade our ambulance service?
Thanks, Doug. Is there any more to your presentation?
Yep, Lisa, go ahead. So I did put in the fiscal information and impact. This was also included in the original proposal. Next. Capital purchases, and yes, I did estimate them at high. However, I did get a quote on all of these expenses. And we make a note on the bottom that many of the capital items can be purchased as refurbished, which come with the same warranty as new. Okay. Next. Estimated 2025 budget, we would see an increase in the 2025 budget to allow for some of that uptraining of personnel that I've mentioned, as well as, some of the pieces that would be needed to be able to have the ambulance ready that are not capital purchases.
Where are we getting the training for our own? I know right now under Riverside, they're supposed to be training, but they're not doing as much as contractually.
Anybody who doesn't already have an EMS license would take the training through NTC, or they could take it through Mid-State. Internally, for those of us that are here and have a license, we would up our training internally.
We would up our internal training to get more AEMTs.
Correct. Well, to go from, like, if you are an EMT basic today and wanna go to AEMT, you would have to go to school for that. We do have some of the staff already on board, or actually at a higher level since Alexa's on our end. So then, the 2020, the projected revenues and grants included $200,000 of revenue, as I pointed out earlier. Riverside, in 2022, from an AEMT level service, made I apologize. What's the too many numbers? $200 and some thousand on our ambulance, and those are at an AEMT level, which is what I'm proposing. If their chief would like to argue with me on that, is it illegal for them to charge it if they get on an AEMT? Okay.
Mr. Chief, Mr. President, I think that the village should not speak in this way about Riverside.
They have spoken
No,
in this
just
way.
let me make my point.
regarding us.
They are providing service to us. The chief has accused them of fraud and of lying.
I did not accuse them of fraud. I said if they charged anything higher than that, it could be fraud. I'm sorry.
Okay, I think this is a mistake for the village to talk in this way about a neighbor that is currently under contract with us to provide ambulance service.
I'd like to bring up something. Hold on. I'd like to bring up something. I have sat through this presentation twice on clip. I've sat through it on APC. So I've seen this presentation several times over now. The first couple times that it came up, and as they were going through it, we never really had to talk about Riverside at all. She was talking about Kronenwetter and what we wanted to do, use their numbers going forward. It wasn't until Riverside decided to start speaking up because of the hole that it would put in their budget, that she had to kind of respond. This was never about Riverside. This was about Kronenwetter, and that's the way it was from the beginning. And this started months ago that I first saw this presentation. So to see this somehow getting turned to, oh gosh, we can't badmouth Riverside. They haven't been badmouthing Riverside, but she has to respond because people are putting it out there.
So basically what you're saying is that everything that you guys sit there and BS about all the back talking, backstabbing that's going on in the darn village here, you guys are turning around and doing the same thing.
True.
Keep your mouth shut. Let's get this presentation going. Let's find out where it is, because right now it's serving the people not your pride.
Are you talking to me or are you talking to her?
I'm talking to her. Your response, we shouldn't be sitting there and, yes, bad-mouthing people. Just button up, grow up, and quit the bad
My
mouthing.
comments and responses have been in regards to information that has been shared by Riverside personnel and posted all over Facebook.
Oh,
None
no.
of us have responded on Facebook in any way, shape, or form. But I will not let the rest of the residents in Kronenwetter be fooled by the information that has been shared.
All we're asking for is transparency. You give us a week to look into this, a week to look into it.
You've had
You
that.
try to, like,
Hold on.
put it
Let
under
me-
the
let me
table so
finish.
nobody else knows
Let me
about
get
it.
to
You
the
give
rest
us a
of
week to
this.
talk about it.
Okay? It's estimated budget for 2026, including for the ambulance service, our budget would be $258,000. It's showing 27 and 28. So that, flip the page for the next page. Our current budget with changes to service, with no changes to service, you can see is $139,000. That includes all the EMS budget, not just what we pay for our service contract, but as well as first responders here in the village. And then bottom is a projected budget with an ambulance service and those revenues, including the interest on the capital expense loan, which I received from our treasurer. So our village expenses would drop from $139,000 down to $129,000.
Just one question on the projections for the Riverside costs.
Yep.
With that cost versus where we're at now. Let's see at the bottom. So right now we're at 138,
Yep.
going to 139. That's about a 1% increase for me.
I included a 3% increase for wages in the EMS budget for our
Everything
staff.
else fixed, then?
Yes.
Do we believe that will only go up that much?
Wages?
Well, the overall
The
cost of what a new,
I do not.
if we don't have a contract with
Right.
Riverside to go
I
beyond
do not
25.
control
Yeah.
that. The contract states that it will auto renew if we do not give them a 90-day notice or they do not give us a 90-day notice. There is nothing in that contract that states that they won't come forward to us in August or September of next year and say that because they are not making any money or not enough money to cover their costs, that they would raise the increase.
But, hey,
Yep. The next page is the per capita calculations. I've seen a lot of low numbers come through on the per capita calculations, however, most of them have been using only the contracted service providers, contract fees, where in fact, Kronenwetter has an EMS budget in total, which is currently today, it's 136,000. You divide that by 8,500 people, and that's an estimated population. It would be $16.12 for the 2024 budget amount. That is per capita, per person in the village of Kronenwetter. For 2026, that projected budget amount with ambulance service, including interest, and my calculations, you have to take your total expenses minus your revenue, divided by people, and that gives you per capita of 15.15. So it's actually a drop of almost $1 per person. Okay, now in regards to the paper I handed you to begin with, some people seem to think that certain areas in our village do not deserve the same amount of care.
Oh, don't pull that. That's not what I put that
was not
for.
said.
That is
That's
not, that
exactly
was
what it
not
says.
said.
Not said.
Okay, I'm not gonna go there, I'm just reading my statement. So quality of care, regardless of patient's location, apartment, single-family home, residential care-based facility, all patients needing medical assistance would receive the highest quality of care by personnel that are devoted to that care and that have compassion for this village and all people in it. All staff will be trained to identify early if care is needed beyond the capabilities of the Kronenwetter EMS group that we can provide to allow for utilization of a paramedic intercept. This can be as early as initial dispatch.
Mr. Vogel.
My recommendation to the village board is to postpone further action to allow creation of a public forum, followed by a special board meeting within the next 2 weeks, or to approve the proposal as it states an implementation plan for ambulance services under Kronenwetter Fire Department to begin 1/1 of 2026 and direct the fire chief and EMS coordinator to continue with the implementation.
Hey, you had a comment?
Yes, do I have to go to the microphone?
Yep.
Okay. If you insist. So. Okay, I'm a certified medical
Name
technologist.
and address?
Faye Bookberger, 824 West Nelson Road, thank you, whoever that was. Certified medical technologist. I find it really offensive, and I'm sure the people at Riverside do too, that people outside the area are being considered inadequate to care for us. That we, as medical professionals, do not have the same, and please stop shaking your head, please. I'm sorry, but I find that very annoying when someone's speaking. And I know that you'd like to respond, could I finish, please? Thank you very much. I'm not saying that the people in Kronenwetter don't care about the people in Kronenwetter, but the people in Riverside on the ambulance care about the patient just as much as the people in Kronenwetter that work in medical fields. That's why we go into the same fields as a firefighter does, or a police officer, is to serve the public. It's got nothing to do with where we live, who those patients are, if they live in apartments or housing and trailer courts or whatever. We are there to serve the public. And I guess I really would like to express that I would not like to be in Riverside shoes and feel like we are saying they're not good enough to serve us. Thank you.
I was thinking the same thing, that,
I will respond to that.
well,
Because this is what was out there, and if you can't read it, I can read it for you, or for those who haven't seen it. This was posted on Facebook after a meeting, like I said, with Riverside Chief and their captain. Hotspot areas from 2023, most of which are Kronenwetter Clinic, assisted living, and low-income housing, with 90% of those calls not requiring an EMT. The first responder would be more effective to help pick up Jim Bob up off the floor at the old folks' home.
well, that doesn't mean much to me. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going by what, you have said here. Saying how much more you're going to care for these people. And I agree, my first thought was the same as, Faye's there. That, in other words, you're saying if Kronenwetter people go into Rothschild, you're not gonna treat them